should you be saving your money now, or should we save the saving for when we're already rich? I see this topic a lot on the internet. I see a lot of people talk about it. And I want to discuss that today from my position, because I've made millions of dollars. I've done it online. I have personal brands. I have businesses. I've done e-commerce, YouTube, all of the buzzwords, right? And I think it's an important discussion because a lot of people want to know this answer. And I want to discuss it from my perspective and talk about kind of my journey, the mistakes that I've made, and what I would change if I was to go back and start it all again. If you don't know me already, my name's Connor. I run a few multiple YouTube channels in different niches, and I've built businesses on the back end of those, generating leads. And I've made this channel to discuss with you guys how you can potentially do the same thing, because I actually believe that anyone who's willing to sit through a video of a guy who's just going on a walk, right? Talking about his journey. I think anyone who's willing to sit through a 10 or so minute video like that can make it. So all you have to do is watch this. I'm going to give you completely free value from my perspective. And my journey all started when I started working when I was 19, right? I'm 34 years old right now. And I always had a goal of buying a property. That was always sort of the top end of the goal. That was as far as my perception went. And in order to buy a property, you need a deposit. And in order to get a deposit, you need to save money, right? So that's what I did. So from 19 to 29 years old, I worked and I saved every single penny. I was frugal. I didn't buy the extra coffee. I didn't buy the drinks when I was out. In fact, I've spoken about this a few times, but one of the best ways to save money that people don't talk about, right, is not just not drinking at all and not having any fun when you're young. It's actually, right, drinking before you go out and finding ways to drink for cheap, like bringing the alcohol with you, sneaking it into, a club or whatever. And it's funny because a lot of people say you can't be successful if you're drinking, or you can't do this. And yes, if you're drinking every single night and it's a problem, then it's going to hinder your success. But if you're having fun with your friends and you're 19, you're 25, you're whatever age, right, and you're just chilling, it's not going to completely stop you from being able to make money, all right? So get that out of your head. You can still have fun, you can still chill, but one of the biggest problems of going out is actually the amount of money you spend, because it hinders you and it stops you from being able to hit your goals and all of that. So I've got to figure out ways to save, and I very much did that. I was very frugal, stingy. I would say I was very stingy. Frugal's not even the right word. When I went out, I would always look at the menu from the cheapest item, all of these things. I wouldn't do X, Y, Z, and I'd put all that money into savings, and I never did anything with the money. That's the problem, right? And from my perspective right now, with the amount of money that I make, the amount of money that I saved, right, is so insignificant. However, and it's a big however, because a lot of people I see now talking basically being like, well, there's no point in saving any money while you're not making any money, right? I was making between 3 and 5K a month for about 10 years, on and off as well, because I basically did like contractor work. But the key is, right, I was saving a small amount of money relative to what I make now. And people, I've seen this, I was watching a podcast, like, don't bother, just spend all your money. You don't need it because you can make that in a day or a week or whatever in the future. But I think the bit that they're missing is the emotional stability and security having that safety blanket actually creates. Now, I saved too much money, right? But I believe from this position that it's very important to have, I would actually say, up to a year of money that you can use to fund your test, right? And the test being a new e-commerce brand, a new YouTube channel, whatever it is, because it takes months, if not years, to make these things successful. And you need to have that emotional and financial security to be able to push through the hard times. It took me from 2006 to 2020 before my YouTube channel was successful. However, it was only a 4 or 5 month stint of making YouTube videos every day that made the channel successful. So it was a mind shift and it was an input shift, right? Even though it took me so long. But the way that I managed to have those 4 or 5 months when I went all in and did a video every single day was because I had those savings. So I think a good test or a good calculation for you to make right now would be to figure out how much it costs you to survive. Do you still live at home? Do you have rent? Do you share the rent? One way that I was doing for a long time was, I can't remember the word. They've got some word for it. But when you get an apartment and you share it to your friends, I don't know what it is, but I used to do that, right? So if you figure out how much it costs you to live, reduce those costs as much as possible. Get a 3-bedroom apartment that you rent yourself for the whole thing, and then rent out the other 2 rooms and try and cover your rent. That sort of stuff. And it's possible. I used to do it, right? And then, so you got 6 months to a year. Let's say you spend $2,000 or $1,000 a month. You need 12 months, right? So you need $12,000 or $20,000 or whatever it is you think for a year. And then that will give you the emotional and security, financial security, emotional security, all of that stuff that you can really focus. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people are missing right now when they're coming from the position of already making money, looking back, oh, I should have just spent that money. I should have done it on experiences. I should have invested it, all of that. Yes, but only after a certain point. So I would say, that $10,000 to $20,000, however much a year's worth of, 6 months to a year worth of, peace of mind. And then anything above that, I would have invested in myself, right? Yes, I would have probably tried to buy more Bitcoin and gone back in time and bought Nvidia and all that shit, right? Sure. But investing it in myself, I went to a free seminar, a free property seminar, or it was $1 or something. And that was amazing. That was one of the biggest eye openers of my life, right? And I never really did anything like that. And, that's what I would change. Being around people and seeing people, meeting mentors, but people who are in positions that you want to be in, or other people who are in your position that want to be in those positions. That's the key. Such a powerful thing to meet people who are on the same quest as you, or people who are a few steps ahead of you or many steps ahead of you. So after having that safety net, I would then invest that money into myself, whether it's going to networking events, whether it's going to conferences, whether it's just flying, getting on a plane to these places where these people might be, Europe, Asia, America, all of these different places where people might be, but being in the right place. And then once I've done that, or not done it, but once I'm doing that, then I can use the extra money to invest into smaller things, not so much property, but things like safe things like the S&P 500, maybe a bit of Bitcoin or whatever that I find that would be good for my own investment. But most importantly, the safety net, then investing in myself, because that's going to 10x the amount of money. Like if I had have started I only started, the reason why I said 19 to 29 earlier is because that's when I was working, right? So I only started trying to make money online when I was 29 years old, and up until this point. So if I had started when I was 21, it would have happened so much faster. And the only reason why I started is because I spoke to someone who told me about Amazon FBA, which I didn't even know existed. And that opened the door, Pandora's box, into the fact that you can make money online, which I didn't even know was possible up until that point. So that's the story. That's what I think about saving money. First, if you appreciate this video, hit the subscribe, like button, leave me a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one.